Okay, hey everyone, you are here now for video tutorial number 2, which is how to outline your body paragraphs for your essay. If you scroll down on your outline and you do not have your introduction paragraph outlined, you do not have all 3 of these boxes filled, you notice mine are not filled because I'm doing an example, but yours should be filled, then you're watching the wrong video. You need to stop this video. You need to go back and watch video number 1 and outline your introduction paragraph first, your first paragraph to your essay. But if you already have your introduction paragraph outlined, you're ready to move on to your body paragraph. Now, just to remember, the focus of this essay, the essential question, the prompt, is who suffers when a crime is committed. In your thesis statement, you should have listed the 3 groups that you're going to talk about that you believe suffered the most, the groups that suffer the most when a crime is committed. For my example, I chose direct victims, I chose witnesses and bystanders, and I chose society. But you might have 3 different ones, so you're writing about your 3. Right? So as you know, the essay, the body paragraphs are where you kind of prove your points and you give specific examples to support your main argument. So if I'm going to argue that these are the 3 groups that are suffer the most, I now have to prove that. I'm proving something in my essay. So body paragraph number 1 is your first group that suffers, and for me that's direct victims. Body paragraph number 2 is your second group, and for me that is witnesses and bystanders. And body paragraph number 3 is the third group that suffers, and for me, that is going to be society, right? However, your 3 could be different. So I'm going to show you how to outline a little bit of the body paragraph, and then all you need to do is just copy, wash, rinse, repeat what I do in the first body paragraph for all 3 of your paragraphs. So, body paragraph number 1. It's group number 1 that suffers. So for me, that is the direct victims. And I'm sure many of you have direct victims too, but you might have a different one that you're starting off with. So what do I have to do? Well, first it says explanation of the group or category. Well, that is direct victims. So I have to start off with a sentence to begin my paragraph that introduces the group that I'm going to be talking about in this paragraph, right? So I would say something very simple. Now you can write this however you want, but I could say one group that suffers the most when a crime is committed is the direct victims. Okay. Now, I have a nice opening line there, and that will work. That's all you really need, but I want to add a little bit more because I'm a writer, and I think I just want to be a little bit more clarification. So I might clarify, what are direct victims can be people who experience low-level crime, like you could say assault, and I'm not demonizing assault, but these are more of robbery, or trying to think of something more of or theft, or identity theft maybe. However, watch now how I switch. They are also those who experience serious crime such as murder. See, I just gave a little bit more explanation on like what is a direct victim, just for clarification, because in an essay you always want to clarify as best as you can. So now I know what this paragraph is going to be about. It's all going to be about direct victims who experience crime and who suffer the most when a crime is committed. So now I got to move on to my first example. Now your examples have to come directly from the content that we've covered in class only. So you're only writing about examples from class. And you should have them listed right here in these boxes. So notice how I have direct victims. If your boxes are completed like they should be, you should have your 3 groups, one here, another one there, another one there, and then you should have 3 examples from what we've read or what we've studied to support that. So we have the husband from Lamb to the Slaughter as my first one. Then we have the 7 deaths from the 1982 Chicago Tylenol murder case. And then I would need a third one, right? So I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to talk about my first example. So my first example is the husband from Lamb to the Slaughter. So I could say something like, in the short story by Roald Dahl, that's the person who wrote it, Lamb to the Slaughter, and I'm just going to correct that here. Sorry, a comma there. The short story by Robert Dahl, Lamb to the Slaughter, the direct victim is the husband of the protagonist, that's our main character, Mary. Right? Mary kills her husband with a frozen leg of lamb. Right? So I kind of give a little bit an example of my first direct victim that I'm going to talk about. So next thing you do is you write the impact of the crime on this example and an explanation of how this example suffered. So what I need to do is I need to go into detail on like what happened, what was the impact of the crime, why, where did the suffering take place, and what kind of suffering took place. Obviously, he lost his life, but I would elaborate on it. Give me a little bit of the story itself, and that is what you want to do in this box, right? So, what you want to do right now is pause the video and do your first example that you're going to write about for your essay when it comes to your group. So, pause the video and do that now. All right, if you're back, then I'm assuming you have both these boxes filled. This box should have a few sentences in it as well. And then you move to your next example. So my next example is going to be the 7 deaths from the 1982 Chicago Tylenol murder case. So I'm going to transition to talking about that group. So I'm going to say, furthermore, I like to use transition words. You could always look these up on the internet. You could always go to a website. For example, good transition words. For transition words for essays, and there's all kinds of sites there that can give you some good transition words for essays. But I'm going to go furthermore. Another group or another example of direct victims who suffered greatly during a crime are the 7 people who died from the infamous 1982 Chicago Tylenol murder case. Right? And then I might give a little bit more detail, but you want to give more detail here. So then I would go into the impact, what happened, what was the crime, and then how they suffered. This one was a little bit more tragic. It was obviously multiple people. I would go into more detail of that example. So I basically did what I just did here, but I would do it again for the. I would do what I just did here, but I would do it again for my second example. And then you do your third example, whatever your third one is up here, you would write about as well. All right. So pause the video now and do your second and third examples for your first body paragraph. Pause the video, do that now. All right, if you're back, then you should have all of these boxes filled. The only one that's not filled is your closing statement, and that is what is learned after sharing these 3 examples. So what do we learn about direct victims in a crime that occurs? So you want to kind of summarize not what happened in your 3 examples, but overall, like, close out this paragraph by saying something like, therefore, the direct victims suffer the most because, and then I would just elaborate and give a couple sentences to close out this paragraph. So pause the video now and write your closing statement. Okay, if you're back, then I'm assuming your first body paragraph should be done, which is great. If you're not sure, you could always call me over, have me read it. I'd be more than happy to check it. check with a student next to you, maybe that they know how to write, or they seem to understand what they're doing, have them read it, maybe share with each other, help each other out, right? Or just, get right to body paragraph number 2. So body paragraph number 2 is your second group that suffers. So watch what I do. I go back up here. My second group is my witnesses and bystanders. So I'm going to start it off kind of the same way I did body paragraph number 1. So I'm going to say another group that suffers greatly, or that suffers when a crime is committed, is the bystanders and witnesses. And then, of course, I would want to explain what I mean by that. Bystanders and, sorry, typing a mistake. Bystanders and witnesses are those people who, and then I would just explain a little bit, again, very similar to what I did up here about direct victims, only I'm talking about bystanders and victims. And then, of course, sorry about that. Of course, I want to go back and give my first example from a story, then a second, and then a third. Do everything the same way you did in the body paragraph number 1, but for your second body paragraph. And then, of course, you would go to your body paragraph number 3, and you would say something like, the last group that suffers the most when a crime is committed is, and for me, my last group was society. So I would go ahead and write is society itself. And then I would go and give some examples. So that's how you do each of your body paragraphs. So what you need to do now is pause the video and write your outline your 3 body paragraphs. It's going to take a couple days. You don't need to rush with this, right? And really put some time and effort and quality into your writing. And then when all that is done, you can move on to finally doing your conclusion and putting your essay together, which I'll show you how to do in the third and final video. All right, good luck. Remember, you can go back and you can rewatch the part about me outlining the body paragraph as much as you need to help you write your body paragraphs.